everything. So first the food is in your closed hand, and you hold it out to the dog, and when the dog stops working that food, you say yes. And you either can give the dog this food, or to make the learning process easier, especially with a puppy, you can give them another piece of food out of your pocket and then present this food again. Now, once your dog is doing that well, that they kind of lick at it a little bit and then they pull their head away, then you can start to associate the word leave it with it. Because what you don't want to do is at the beginning repeat the command a million times and have the dog doing weird things. But once your dog is pulling their head away kind of successfully, you can start saying leave it to that. Leave it, yes, present the food or another piece of food. The other thing that you could do is if the dog never stops licking your hand, you can kind of push your hand towards the dog, and sometimes that will create a moment where the dog has stopped working on trying to get the food out, and you can use that moment to say yes and present the food, and they learn that pretty fast. The next steps then are your hand slowly going down to the ground. So you work at this level, at this level, at this level, and finally with your hand all the way to the ground. Now once your dog is doing a pretty good leave it, so you say leave it, then your dog's backing away from the hand, you open your hand. Now the food's open, and if your dog charges at the food, you can quickly close your hand, but if not, then you simply have your hand open and you say leave it. Again, if your dog charges at the hand, you close it, you remind them what you're doing, but you'd like to get to the point where you have an open hand with a piece of food in it and you tell the dog leave it, and the dog looks away from the food, ideally looks to you, and then you can give the dog a treat. The next step then is just the food on the floor, and finally the food sort of behind the dog, and what you're looking for there is that the dog actually turns around and looks at you, and then that's when the reward comes. Because like I said, ultimately this command is the dog's doing something and you say leave it, and you don't want the dog just to keep moving towards that thing or staring at that thing. You actually want the dog to turn around and interact with you. Okay, so I hope that makes some sense. It's like super early in the morning. Dogs are being bad, but I hope that helps you guys. Bye. Each leave it first with food. So this is a piece of sausage, and I put it in my hand and I present it to the dog like this, and the dog's gonna bite out your hand like that, and you basically wait for the moment the dog stops, and when she stops, yes, and you can give her the piece of food in your hand, open up your hand, or you can give them another piece of food out of your pocket. So for instance, say, you present it and then you would say, yes, and you would give her this one, take it, or you would give her a new one, okay? So if the dog never stops working your hand, you can hit back a little bit at them. So basically what you would do is as the dog is working your hand, you would give them a little bit of a hit. Now, when she gets good at leaving it, when I present this hand, you can put the word leave it to it. So for example, show the dog the sausage, you close your hand, leave it, yes, take it. So again, you only put the word to it once the dog, so when the dog leaves your hand, you say yes, and you give the sausage to the dog. And then once the dog is good about leaving what's in your hand, then you start putting the word on it. So she works my hand. Yes. Yes. Take it. Good. Leave it. Yes, good, leave it. Take it. Okay, so now the next step is that one hand slowly goes to the ground. Move it to the ground, so the same sort of thing, treat in my hand, moving it all the way to the ground. Come here, sweetie, so they can see. Moving it all the way to the ground, the dog will work it. When she stops, yes, go. Yes, good, leave it. Yes, good, leave it. Take it. Good job, good girl. And then the next step, of course, is to be able to have the food in your open hand, and then eventually the food just on the ground. So I have the food in my open hand, leave it. Leave it. Leave it. Yes. Leave it. Yes. Good girl. Okay, get it. Okay, so I'm actually moving the food upwards because she's used to when I'm giving it to her through my open hand. So the next step is to have a piece of food on the ground and have her take and have her leave food that's there. And then the final step is to actually ask her to turn away from food when it's behind her. Because ultimately what you want in the leave it is you want, for example, if there's a squirrel running, when you say leave it, not just that the dog not get the squirrel and continue staring at it, but that the dog actually turn around and look back at you. So okay, so here is food just that's on the ground. Leave it. Can I move over here so they can see? Leave it. Yes, that's a very good leave it. Awesome. Yes, good job. Leave it. Yes, what a good girl. And then eventually moving the food so it's behind her. So she'd turn around and face me. So come here, Pats. See how I can best show this. Pats, 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 Pats. Pats, look. Leave it. Leave it. Yes, that's a good girl. Good, leave it. Good job. And I'm picking this one up myself. I'm not giving her this one. Ready? Come right here. What's there? Leave it. Leave it. Good. That's leave it. Awesome. Now you can have it. Get it.